Hey, sauce, aching anthrax here. Today I will be talking about one of the largest drug dealers on earth. You might be thinking, this is another video about Pablo Escobar, or Manuel Noriega, or Juan Jose Francisco Rodriguez, but no, this is about a person who lived in the 19th century and was not from Mexico. Her name was Queen Victoria. Alexandrina Victoria was born on the 24th of May, 1819. Her early life was uninteresting, except for her father dying less than a year after her birth. She became 18 on the 24th of May, 1837, and less than a month later King George IV died, and she became queen. Even before Victory assumed the throne, there was a background of trade with the British paying for goods from China such as silk, porcelain, and tea. The Chinese, however, were not purchasing English goods. The Anglos began smuggling opium to the Chinese with a monopoly on opium. Importing this joy plant was illegal, but still occurred in China. By the start of the First Opium War, more than 2,500 tons of opium were being imported every year. Here's a quick fun fact. An estimated 27% of the male population of China at the time was addicted to opium, which is about 50 million Chinese. So when people whine about an opium crisis in America, acknowledge that it's a real problem and that many people and families are suffering from this incredibly addictive drug. People can't go through any drug addiction alone, so if anyone you know is addicted to any drug, help them. You can consider it I don't think my sponsor would like that. Queen Virginia's smuggling shenanigans began in early September 1839. On the 4th day of the month, the Battle of Kowloon occurred, and this was the first armed skirmish between the Ching Chongers and the Brits. It was pretty boring, with some big boats firing big guns at some Chinese. But imagine if this happened today. A US company becomes the only company creating meth on this flat earth, and Europe banned meth. Then the United States goes to war with all of Europe on behalf of this drug smuggling, encompassing, malfunction, narcotic juggling, belt buckling, heroin suckling, bath bubbling, person huggling company. There would be at least one death from a war on that magnitude. The British offensive began in late June 1840. Most battles were naval, and by 1841, all major ports had surrendered or were blockaded. The Chinese would not give up, and the Anglos began pushing up the Pearl River. I'm skipping over a lot, but the war ended with an accord which gave the English Hong Kong, taken from Ching Chong, Chinatown. About a decade after the peace treaty, the Second Opium War began, once more with Queen Vodka leading one of the main belligerents. This time, though, they fought with one of the most disappointing armies of all time, the French. It is sometimes called the Second Anglo-Chinese War because there was the First Anglo-Chinese War, or the Second China War because it happened in China, even though it wasn't the second of all time, or the Anglo-French expedition to China because English and French went there on an expedition in China, or the Arrow War because I want to kill myself. I will skip over even more of this war, but here's the whole Wikipedia page if you want to read it. In the peace treaty following the war, the Frogs, the English, and the toughest people of all got permanent diplomatic presence in Beijing. Along with that, opium was finally legalized by the Chingy Chongers. In summary, you don't have to be a Mexican to have a drug empire. Along with that, feminists can love me for pointing out that even women can be drug kingpins. During Velvet's reign, more than 1 pound of opium was smuggled into China, showing that you should always follow your dreams, even if they mean making a narcotic empire and going to war with a nation of hundreds of millions, destabilizing the entire region. This video was brought to you by a website centering around media from a different Asian country.